Science mobile app currently have 18,000 subscribers in India and also in 12 other countries. We are looking for experts like you who can deliver an expert talk for 15 to 20 minutes in your current research area. Or you can also present your profile so that interested collaborators will approach you for consultancy, research progress, or academic collaboration. Just accept our invitation, so that you broadcast your video in the appropriate groups and also in mobile app with timely notification to all the users. This helps to share the knowledge to the required students, scholars, etc. Prepare the PPT content and recorded video with any screen recorder software or simply send your selfie video mentioning your expertise, so that we broadcast that video to the users. As said, this will help generating new research collaborations, presenting your work, sharing your ideas and also publicizing your expertise and skills. Please see the video is of 10 to 15 minutes. We look forward for your positive response. Contact us today. Thank you. Science mobile app currently have 18,000 subscribers in India and also in 12 other countries. We are looking for experts like you who can deliver an expert talk for 15 to 20 minutes in your current research area. Or you can also present your profile so that interested collaborators will approach you for consultancy, research progress, or academic collaboration. Just accept our invitation, so that you broadcast your video in the appropriate groups and also in mobile app with timely notification to all the users. This helps to share the knowledge to the required students, scholars, etc. Prepare the PPT content and recorded video with any screen recorder software or simply send your selfie video mentioning your expertise, so that we broadcast that video to the users. As said, this will help generating new research collaborations, presenting your work, sharing your ideas and also publicizing your expertise and skills. Please see the video is of 10 to 15 minutes. We look forward for your positive response. Contact us today. Thank you. Science mobile app currently have 18,000 subscribers in India and also in 12 other countries. We are looking for experts like you who can deliver an expert talk for 15 to 20 minutes in your current research area. Or you can also present your profile so that interested collaborators will approach you for consultancy, research progress, or academic collaboration. Just accept our invitation, so that you broadcast your video in the appropriate groups and also in mobile app with timely notification to all the users. This helps to share the knowledge to the required students, scholars, etc. Prepare the PPT content and recorded video with any screen recorder software or simply send your selfie video mentioning your expertise, so that we broadcast that video to the users. As said, this will help generating new research collaborations, presenting your work, sharing your ideas and also publicizing your expertise and skills. Please see the video is of 10 to 15 minutes. We look forward for your positive response. Contact us today. Thank you. Science mobile app currently have 18,000 subscribers in India and also in 12 other countries. We are looking for experts like you who can deliver an expert talk for 15 to 20 minutes in your current research area. Or you can also present your profile so that interested collaborators will approach you for consultancy, research progress, or academic collaboration. Just accept our invitation, so that you broadcast your video in the appropriate groups and also in mobile app with timely notification to all the users. This helps to share the knowledge to the required students, scholars, etc. Prepare the PPT content and recorded video with any screen recorder software or simply send your selfie video mentioning your expertise, so that we broadcast that video to the users. As said, this will help generating new research collaborations, presenting your work, sharing your ideas and also publicizing your expertise and skills. Please see the video is of 10 to 15 minutes. We look forward for your positive response. Contact us today. Thank you. Science mobile app currently have 18,000 subscribers in India and also in 12 other countries. We are looking for experts like you who can deliver an expert talk for 15 to 20 minutes in your current research area. Or you can also present your profile so that interested collaborators will approach you for consultancy, research progress, or academic collaboration. Just accept our invitation, so that you broadcast your video in the appropriate groups and also in mobile app with timely notification to all the users. This helps to share the knowledge to the required students, scholars etc. Prepare the PPT content and recorded video with any screen recorder software or simply send your selfie video mentioning your expertise, so that we broadcast that video to the users. As said, this will help generating new research collaborations, presenting your work, sharing your ideas and also publicizing your expertise and skills. Please see the video is of 10 to 15 minutes. We look forward for your positive response. Contact us today. Thank you.
Do you ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to contact our office today to start the conversation. We're here and ready to help shed light on what direction will make the most positive impact in your life. Call us today. We're ready to listen. Do you ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to
We'll be here in another 7 to 8 minutes.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
No problem.
Murli,
Yes,
I'm not
Yes.
getting Professor Narayana.
even I am also.
Murli, search option లేదా search లో?
Hello.
No, no.
Sir,
picture.
do one thing. Switch on the video of these. Hello.
Yes.
Switch on the video and then ask. See that who is on the video. Only that particular person you can able to visualize instead of.
I'll go live. I'll go live.
Now sir is coming.
Sir is on registrar. So name.
Register. Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
I just wanted to check with you. You're recording this talk, right?
Yeah, we are recording, yes.
Okay, that is number one. Number two, what will happen when Professor now comes?
What is the agenda?
Hello.
Yeah.
What will happen?
Dr. Padda, please respond. Dr. Padda Sarathi, please respond. Sir, actually, when we start this webinar, Professor Narayana sir will give you the welcome address, and Professor CNR Rao is going to be chairing the webinar.
So Professor Narayana will give the welcome address?
Yes, sir.
No, I was not informed. Okay.
And he will introduce, or somebody will introduce Professor CNR Rao, and he is going to be chairing the webinar.
Okay, fine. Yeah, okay.
With his start, he will start with his speech and then following up the webinar.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there after he finishes, is there any?
So yes, sir. After he finishes, he
Hello?
can introduce the next speaker. There are other 3 speakers are there. He's going to be
Star
chairing
name
that.
ఏంటి? Star name ఏంది ఇక్కడ?
So we have already sent that short program to you.
అన్మ్యూట్ చేస్తాను. సార్ నేమ్ ఏంటి? నేమ్ ఏంటి చూపిస్తుంది స్క్రీన్ మీద? సార్
You can see in the screen, it's appearing as registered.
Okay, I'm changing the name.
Hello. Professor Ajay, shall we start?
Yes, sir. Actually, Professor CNR Rao is also here. So we will wait just 30 seconds. 11 will be there in 30 seconds. 30 seconds, 11 o'clock, sir. It will be 30 seconds.
Yes. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. I am Shashi joining from Naipur, Hyderabad.
Good morning, madam. Thanks, madam. Thanks for joining. Yes.
Yeah.
We can hear it, madam. Always please on your video, madam.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It will be easy for us to locate.
पर कुछ होगा तो आप it is 2 hour session. इसमें बाइक बुला रहे हैं.
Hello.
నమస్తే అండి మురళి గారు. నేను ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ఏబుల్ టు లిజన్, వాయిస్ లేకుండా ఉంది, ఒత్తి పిక్చర్స్ మాత్రం కనపడతా ఉంది. ఓకే ఓకే థ్యాంక్ యూ.
ये जरा फोन में अपना अनम्यूट कर
All co-hosts, please off your video and mute yourself. All co-hosts.
Sanjay, we need to start now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, good morning, everybody. So, I wish to request Professor D. Narayana Rao, Pro Vice Chancellor of SRM University, to start the webinar.
The most famous scientist of global repute, Linus Pauling, research professor at Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research, JNC.
पीछे ये फोटो कट रहा है, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. ठीक.
Mentor of many illustrious scientists in India and abroad, a great son of India, and Bharat Ratna Prof. Rao. Let's give a big, rousing welcome to Prof. Rao. Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Science and Technology, who is endowed with the responsibility of steering science and technology in the country, Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, who will be joining a little later. Reputed scientist, young and dynamic director of CSIR, Institute of Chemical Technology, CSIR IICT, Director of National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education, Hyderabad, Naipur, Dr. Shibala Singh, who champions for women empowerment in science and technology, as she has been doing that when she was the director of the past and also Director General of DRDO.
నమస్తే.
President of SRM University, Dr. Satyanarayan, Vice Chancellor of SRM University, Chennai, Prof. Sandeep Sanchetti, Prof. Sethuraman, Registrar of SRM University, Chennai, Dr. Gunasekaran, Registrar of SRM AP, and I am glad to welcome 3,054 participants from IISc, IITs, NITs, ISERs, IIITs, private, state-funded and central universities, engineering colleges, national laboratories of DST, DBT, DRDO, CSIR, ISRO, ICMR, Ministry of Earth Sciences, fellows of all academies of this country, members of the organizing committee of the webinar, my colleagues at SRM Chennai and at SRM University, Andhra Pradesh, members of print and electronic media, elite of the country, ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm and cordial welcome to all of you for the webinar on post-COVID-19 science and technology. Once again, let's give a rousing welcome to Professor CNR Rao by clapping. The webinar on post-COVID-19 science and technology is being organized by SRM University, Andhra Pradesh in association with India's national newspaper, The Hindu. COVID-19 pandemic has created an unprecedented global crisis. 5 million people in about 200 countries. COVID-19 has inflicted many economies, including the Indian economy. A possible financial crunch. There may be a slowdown in research in institutions, universities, and national laboratories in the country. What we feel that would have positive our collaboration culture is taking root. Scientists, virologists, immunologists, and industry executives and medical equipment, PPEs, rapid testing kits, etc. Weeks, doctors, researchers, engineers, and scientists from several fields of knowledge around the world are working to confront the coronavirus outbreak with an unprecedented period of collaboration. World, geographic boundaries are becoming meaningless. New approaches in collaboration have a different purpose, structures, and outcome than those of the past. Marked by geographic diversity of participants across industry focus and more flexible structures and continuous value creation. During COVID-19 pandemic, many of us or most of us are effectively using many digital tools and technologies like artificial intelligence, mobile phones to trace infections. To better prepare for the future, we can fast develop innovative solutions, especially in health, education, agriculture, and supply chains. Now we have a common enemy, coronavirus, and is challenging our existence. COVID-19 has devastated lives, families, jobs, and economies around the world. Similarly, we have another common enemy, and we are battling with climate change. To combat climate change and global warming, perhaps we need to adopt a collaborative approach as is being done to overcome COVID-19 pandemic. A team of engineers, physicians, computer scientists, and others at MIT, USA have been working on a low-cost ventilator. In open source design, its open source design was taken up by a group of Indian engineers in urgency to build ventilators to ease the country's shortage. This demonstrates the power of combined coordination and mediation of public, private institutions, provide technical know-how, ensure the supply of components conditions. The scientific community has such a strong hope. For a long time, India's science institutes have been hobbled by multiple qualitative and quantitative issues. India's R&D is mostly driven by government funding, while gross expenditure on R&D, that is GERD, has grown. As a percentage, it prevails flat at 0.6 to 0.7% against the United States 2.8%, 2%, and China 2.1%. Our R&D, of course, has a limited capacity to absorb. Many of our science laboratories operate in silos and often shy away from the country's needs and realities. Applying laboratory research and innovation to solve India's problems needs to be a priority. COVID-19 is bringing science and technology closer to the country's problems. Science in laboratories must be applied to the societal needs. That's happening now. With a big crisis as big as COVID-19 pandemic, many of the scientists and technologists are being noticed for their sharpness and their concern for the society. COVID-19 is a wake-up call for scientists, technologists, engineers, bureaucrats, and policymakers. I repeat, COVID-19 is a wake-up call for scientists, technologists, engineers, bureaucrats, and policymakers. We need to reinvent the ways of doing science and technology.
वीडियो भी ऑफ कर दिया, कोई फायदा नहीं है बोल रहे हैं।
With this crisis, we are beginning to break silos and collaborate to find solutions. The COVID-19 pandemic is forcing a strategic rethink within the government on how it nurtures its scientific landscape. There is a realization that instead of importing, creating indigenous knowledge and manufacturing base should be the national priority. Unlike other services, vaccines, drugs, and medical devices cannot be developed overnight. I repeat, unlike other services, drugs, vaccines, and medical devices cannot be developed overnight. India, with CSIR laboratories and outfits like Bharat, has built a strong bioscience foundation with a robust and startup corporate base. In a way, COVID-19 pandemic crisis has catalyzed India and its scientific community. Self-reliant capabilities need to be enabled by planned investments in R&D, including basic research, technology, and policy support. Self-reliant capabilities in electric and fuel cell vehicles, energy storage systems, photovoltaic solar cells and modules, so as to meet our ambitious future targets of 100 gigawatts, unmanned aerial vehicles, artificial intelligence, robotics and automation, biotech and pharma are well within the reach of the scientists and technologies of this country. Large-scale concerted endeavors would be required since self-reliance will not happen by itself, I repeat. Large-scale concerted endeavors would be required since self-reliance will not happen by itself. State-funded R&D, including basic research in universities and research institutions, need to be scaled up significantly, well above the current 0.7% of GDP. The Indian scientific community is optimistic that it will reflect in the budget allocations in the years to come. We feel that pandemic should have a positive impact on our science and technology. There should be some positive changes. Now it is India's turn, and we know that our time has come. India is all set to regain its due place in the Committee of Nations. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Vigyan. Thank you very much. Now, I request Dr. Parsarthi Maram to introduce our great scientist and mentor of several illustrious scientists in India and abroad, Prof. Rao, Bharat Ratna Prof. Rao, to the august audience of more than 3,000 participants from premier institutions who are participating in this webinar. Dr. Partha.
Good morning to all the panelists and the participants who are on this webinar. It is my honor to introduce the great scientist personality of our country, Professor C.N.R. Rao. He is a well-known, highly reputed Indian chemist who tremendously worked in the area of solid-state structural chemistry. He has honorary doctorates received from 60 universities around the world and authored more than 1,600 research articles and 51 books. He received the most important awards and honors in science and technology, namely Marlowe Medal, Santi Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, India Science Award, Dan David Prize, and Royal Medal. He also received Padma Shri in 1974, Padma Vibhushan in 1985 from the Government of India. And in the year 2013, the Government of India also selected him for Bharat Ratna, the highest civilian award in India, making him the third scientist after Sir C.V. Raman and Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to receive such a honor award. So with this short introduction, I'm glad to inform you to all the participants that Professor CNR Rao will be chairing this session. And I kindly request Professor CNR Rao to address the participants with his speech.
My dear friends, I'm very glad to say a few words on this occasion. COVID has devastated all people in India and the world. It has created tremendous human suffering, and as far as science is concerned, we have lost billions hours or more of scientific work due to COVID-19. The lockdown has also had a terrible psychological effect. Many people, my good friends in Oxford, Cambridge, and even in the United States, feel very depressed, staying home, but we have to face this. For the first time in my life, in the last 18 and more years, I have never experienced what we have seen the last 3 to 4 months. But as far as I am concerned, I will not let COVID defeat me. COVID cannot defeat human intelligence. It cannot defeat human determination. As far as science is concerned, science will go on as long as human beings are around. Science is the result of the urge of human beings to create new things, to explore new things. It's an urge that cannot be suppressed by any virus. I am quite confident science will go on in spite of immaterial of virus, of any kind of virus. Let me remind you, the great plague that affected Europe and England almost in the 17th century made Newton discover the Greeks. It was only during the plague time that he went away to a village, sat under a tree and discovered many things that we know today. Another story, last year was the year of the periodic table. Mendeleev discovered the periodic table just after suffering so many problems. Those days, everyone used to die of tuberculosis. He lost his father with tuberculosis, his mother died of tuberculosis, his sister died of tuberculosis, he himself had tuberculosis. Somehow he got rid of it and decided that he would do science. His determination, eventually, of course, he became one of the greatest scientists of the world. As I said, we should not worry too much about the virus as a permanent source of damage. It will not be permanent source of damage to our intellect or to science. As far as India is concerned, what is it to do in science? First of all, I must congratulate those who are doing medical as well as biological research related to viruses, and I want to congratulate them for their contribution. But we have to do more, not only in this field, but in every other field. We have to be more competitive in research, and we have to become more futuristic in science. Well, the science and technology of the future, why should we worry about it? The reason is, the future of India depends on the foundation of science and technology. It is for this reason countries like China is fighting everywhere to be number one in science. They are already number 1 or 2 in economy, military strength and so on, but they are not happy with that. They want to be top in science and technology. India's desire, therefore, should be in the top in science and technology, and whatever COVID can do will be, therefore, a slowdown which is very temporary and not permanent. Of course, we have to do collaboration. Unfortunately, I find more Indians collaborate with number of good scientists abroad. There's not as much collaboration between institutions and individual scientists within India. They have to increase this collaboration. Industry collaboration with individual scientists like me, academia, has increased to some extent and not sufficient. In fact, there are places like MIT and other institutions where hundreds and hundreds of new ideas and startup companies keep coming every year based on the academic work and the collaboration with industry. in the country. So we have to do much more. But let me tell you what is the present status of India in science. As far as I can see, India today is somewhat marginal in performance of science in the world today. Its record in recent times is not as exciting as it should be. What should be? What type of research we should do? What should we do? We have to do 3 types of research in India. First, the one that is very competitive, working on the very frontiers of science, of course, including virus research, research related to health, research related to materials, research related to technology of various kinds. Second, we have to do types of research that directly helps industry of India, which are national priorities. The third type of research is one where there are unique possibilities, where India will be the number one in the world in that area. In those areas where India has a unique advantage, we will have to do much more. These 3 types of research, I hope, will take India to great heights. Well, what is the obvious area to work right now? Energy is an obvious area other than our health, our own diseases that affect poor people, affect our citizens. Energy, the entire population of 1.2, 1.3 billion people start using energy and favored people like us use it in our cities. The India's requirement in energy, electricity would be at least 400,000 or 500,000 megawatts of electricity. Where do we get it? How do we produce it? Well, we have to find alternative sources, and we are bogged down by what Westerners, others say. For example, I see everywhere. I saw the other day the Prime Minister of England announcing England will be completely become electric as far as vehicles are concerned. It is not a very good statement because electric cars run on lithium batteries, and then we can have lithium batteries. But lithium in the world, there's no cobalt. Cobalt is only in one country in Africa, and therefore we can't depend on such a technology. We have to create technologies which are more Indian, more useful to us, directly beneficial on a long-term basis. For example, I would develop better much more, not because I work on hydrogen energy, because once you produce hydrogen, which is not difficult today, you can produce it. The problem has been only storage of hydrogen. Once that is also solved, hydrogen cars, there are already hydrogen cars all over. It doesn't give any pollution. Look at the pollution environment that Dr. Narayana Rao talked about. It is really plaguing Bangalore, plaguing Delhi. Every country in the world is plagued by environmental problems. One of the main problems has been our own cars, our own transport vehicles, and the amount of carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, the number of the terrible gases our cars and vehicles emit are something we do not want. If we use hydrogen, the only thing that it produces is water. So there's absolutely no question of pollution. So we have to think of more of hydrogen. I think there should be more intense research in India. They could be leaders in hydrogen research in the world, and therefore our pollution problem is solved. At the same time, our energy problem is also solved to some extent. Well, there are many problems. I can go on listing many. One problem I listed, I've been talking about it to many prime ministers also at one time. Look at our water problem. There is water, tremendous water. In Bangalore, last few days, there is flooding. All that water is gone. Nobody has stored that water. We do not know how to manage water. Water in the rivers, waters in our lakes, water that comes every year. Water research and management is something we have to learn. It is directly useful to every human being in our country. So, one listing. Well, I myself do work on nanotechnology, nanoscience. Look at what it has done in the last 15 years. The technology has come. I'll mention one. The use of now science and technology in medicine. For example, people who get a serious burn in their skin, 7-degree burn, 7th-degree burn. Today, nanotechnology produces artificial skin that completely replaces natural patient. Is quite happy afterward. There are many examples. For example, people have made nano noses, nose that will smell billion molecules characteristic of a characteristic of a disease, for example, a particular kind of cancer. Many kinds of research. These are the kinds of research India should be doing in every area, in the very frontier, so that we are on the top. Well, investment on science was mentioned by Dr. Narayana Rao. I'll mention it again. I have been debating, discussing, and arguing with prime ministers and everyone you can know that India should at least spend 2% of the GDP on science. A scientist like me working in the little laboratories, universities, national laboratories, they get very little money for science. But some of it goes for space, atomic energy, the bigger organizations like that. The working scientists in the little labs, those little scientists are the ones who produce a new cure for the COVID, any kind of virus. Those are the little scientists who produce solutions for energy. So we have to worry about that kind of science. It is that kind of science which receives a tremendous support in countries like US and some other countries like Korea, South Korea. South Korea is the biggest industry in science. Look at what has happened. South Korea got freedom at the same time as India. Look, Koreans are mortally afraid of South Korea. The amount of science they do, the technology. Well, I think we should invest more. The second I should mention, I have been a teacher. I know many of you may not know. I've done research for 70 now. Last 70 years, I'm doing research in India and publishing papers. Well, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. But the reason I'm mentioning that is what I have noticed is the effort we put in India is marginal in the case of education. Recently, the quality of education at school level that has been internationally adjudged by various groups of people. The order has come. India is nowhere in the top 100. The top best country for school education is Finland. In fact, Singapore compared in the top 10. America is not very good. It is about bottom of 20, 30 years. America's school education is not very good. We have to invest on children. We have the maximum number of children in the world, particularly in rural India. They are the future. If we believe in the future of India is through science and technology. Those scientists and technologies are produced, and they will obviously be from a rural part of India, our village children. Those village children right now don't have a chance. They are brilliant. I tell you, I go all over India to give lectures to children in the mountains, in Himalayas, and in Kerala, in everywhere, in Karnataka. But I find they're very smart, very anxious to learn, and we have to use them because they will produce the future science. We have to worry about the future because the old people like me, how long we won't be contributing for too long. I think we have to invest money for them. In fact, teaching and teachers both should get greater importance in India. As I said, science will go on. There's no question. India also will go on doing science. But we need leaders without any offense meant to anyone in particular. We need young leaders. There are more young leaders in India, the more accomplishment India will make. What do you mean by leaders? Leaders mean not in the same way we talk in society about leaders. Leadership in science is one, where people are authorities in the particular area. Their name is known everywhere in the world. All you have to do is mention their name. People know them. Whether it is America, Germany, Finland, Iceland, doesn't matter. We need scientists of that kind, of that caliber, who are known everywhere, who are leaders of that science everywhere in the world. You not only talk of them, they come to learn from them. We want India of that kind. India, which is a leader in science, will have to have leaders who are capable of leading, and we need young people to become such leaders. We have to work very hard. Pardon me, my dear fellow scientists, if you don't mind an old man like me saying something, we do not work hard enough. They're the least hardworking people, at least in Asia. I'm not comparing Europe, America. If you go to China, my God, they scare you by the way they work. Japan, of course, is very well known. They come at 9 in the morning, work till midnight. I mean, South Koreans, same thing. I'm not saying that they put in more hours. Somehow dedicated, you have to work on. As Indian philosophy, let me do 1 minute, as great Adi Shankaracharya said, what we need in anything we do is not just our brain. Brain is the lowest form that every animal even has. We want to use our mind. Our mind should be in what we do in science. Mind is not even mind that is important. Higher than the mind is consciousness. When the brain, mind, and the consciousness, all three somehow synergistically really are geared to directed towards solving main problems of India, India will become a great country. Till then, we have people doing an 8-hour day job and doing some routine work, doing some science in the lab because they have to earn a salary. I think India won't become. I want India to become a top country. I'm getting too old to wait any longer. In fact, I remember today, just as I was speaking, Professor C.V. Raman, just few weeks before he died, there was a meeting of our academy in Bangalore. I was with him as one of the speakers. After that, he was with me. He told me, Professor Rao, tell me, I am now 80 years old. Why is it India not on top of the world in science? Why should not that happen? I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I thought I would see India be in the top one or second, or first, or third in the world in science, accomplishing big things and so on. Also, I also quote Raman, if you don't mind, my dear fellow scientists, particularly. It is not an insult to anybody, but it's something he said. There is some truth in it. There is a built-in, he felt, there's a built-in inferiority, a complex and nervousness amongst us. Indians feel a bit lower than others. I don't know why. Even today, in a free India, why should we feel that? We should have a spirit of victory. Raman had a spirit of victory even before India got freedom. Even before India got freedom. What was that? Okay, even before India got freedom, someone like Raman existed. J.C. Bose existed. In the British India, they did the work what they did, and Raman became an FRS when he was a young man, and later the Nobel Prize in 1930. Same with J.C. Bose, discovered the radio in 1895. How did they do that? These are our examples. Of course, Ramanujan in mathematics. Some of the great people are our examples of greatness in spite of all the adversity. So India, we have enough problem. We do not have that much problem today. We have enough reasonable support. We need more support, but we have to put in our heart and soul. Our heart and soul, our mind and consciousness should be to save India and to help India to become the top in the world. Well, I do not want to go on. All I personally know that it's doggedness that succeeds in India. Those who don't give up succeed in India. That is how Gandhiji got us freedom, by doggedness. One man defeated the entire empire, British Empire, not because he had an army, not because he had telephones and aeroplanes. He had no such facility, but doggedness is what he had. Those who succeed in science, even today, even abroad, some of my friends, a number of my friends who have Nobel Prizes, many great friends who are outstanding. They all are what they are because they would not give up. Let us now determine today, during these terribly depressing COVID days, to be determined to be dogged, not give up until India succeeds. I close by saying, as far as I'm concerned, I want to keep doing science as well as I can till the last day. In fact, my only prayer to God is keep me in science as long as I'm alive. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Yes. Let's give standing ovation to Professor Rao, the invited speakers, the participants, to the great son of India, Bharat Ratna Prof. Rao. And please give a standing ovation by clapping. Sudarshan, they have not sent questions. Sudarshan, Question to Prosienna Rao. Is what a genuine substitute for hands-on practices? Will it impact the intellectual growth and job opportunities for the future generation? Now I request Prosienna Rao to kindly respond.
I think in the short term, these virtual meetings and virtual teaching will affect both the quality and future prospects of young people. The quality of education certainly will suffer. You know, it is very well known, even in America, with all its technology, eventually the teacher in the classroom that excites the imagination. You can't get away with that. Then everything is virtual, you can do technology. Technology cannot replace humans, cannot replace the human mind. I feel, therefore, it will affect, but I hope God will allow us, God willing, we will get rid of this problem and have a regular classroom soon. More than that, even in a virtual meetings, it's a major problem if you want to discuss. People have to meet, and we can't eliminate human interference and human participation by machine.
The next question to Prosienna Rao by Mr. Shravan Kumar is, how exactly science and technology can accelerate the economy of the country after COVID-19, and how young people could contribute?
Well, you know, the first thing as far as young people is concerned, this is where I talk about education and investment in education, not only me, but our interest in education. You know, the amazing thing is we have to create where young people become more innovative. Creativity is something you do not teach in classrooms. It is something that comes out because of the ambient. Why is it in America? I think there's some more atmosphere enables and promotes that we have younger people more tuned with the way the world is going on, that they are more innovative. That is one thing. Second, our industry and academia, instead of marginal collaboration, have to have major problems. For example, I tell you, in my own 70 years of research, I have industry asking me to do something. I work on many areas where things some advanced in technology industries, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Industries also should be more. Our academia, we have to be more forthcoming working with industry, but we have to work on the right problems. You see, don't forget, we should work on the right problems, even in science. That Faraday's famous statement, it is choosing the problem that is difficult, doing it is very easy, he said. But we have to work. That is where India is not doing well. Let's pick the right problems and right areas so that we have maximum impact on society. Maximum impact on society.
Okay. The next question to Prosienna Rao is, how the perspective of online working and online education has changed? What is the scope and continuation and upgradation after COVID-19?
I think online things should be used to minimum extent, and I think eventually humans should come back.
No.
It's all right, it is useful now in difficult times, but it cannot be a permanent solution to our education.
Phone number raskondi. Okay, we will take up another last question to Prosienna Rao. How the young scientists should get motivated to do science and technology in these testing times of COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, you know, that's what I said. We have to do something. We senior scientists should do something with the imagination of to meet them, talk to them, give lectures to them, particularly in rural area. There are millions of children. There must be one Newton or Faraday in our India, because those millions must have some, except that they are somewhere. We did not only go to city children who have all the opportunities. So I don't think there is enough talent in India. We have not tapped the talent. We have to excite the imagination. Don't forget, in the history of science, everyone who became great was because of some incident, some spark, some lecture, meeting somebody, seeing somebody. In fact, in my own life, when I was very young, when I was 11 years old in Bangalore, I heard C.V. Raman in my school. that made a permanent impression on me. I wanted to become a scientist after looking at Raman. So, like that, we senior scientists have the excellent imagination of young children, promote them, help them. And this is where I think India's educational and scientific investment have to help us to do more for the future of India.
Sir, as moderator of this webinar, I have received hundreds of questions from your ardent disciples and fans who are participating in the webinar. As you know, I am also one of the ardent disciple of Prof. C.N.R. Rao, but due to paucity of time, I am not able to take my question or the questions of other disciples of yours sitting here. Sir, we are highly grateful to Bharat Ratna Prof. C.N.R. Rao for participating and sharing in and inspiring talk to the part, and also a sort of call to the government to do more in science and technology. Thank you very much, sir.
God bless. God bless.
Hello.
I have great pleasure in inviting Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretariat of India, Department of Science and Technology, who is endowed with the responsibility of steering science and technology in this country. Professor Ashutosh Sharma is a pioneer and well-known scientist in nanotechnology, received several awards, including Infosys Science Award, and as Secretary DST, he has introduced several new programs very recently, such as Sophisticated Analytical and Technical Help Institutes, SATI, with huge funding of more than 100 crores of rupees to few institutions. Also, Professor Ashutosh Sharma has initiated a big program known as Mega Science. These are all feathers to his contributions to SNT in this country. Now I have a great pleasure in inviting Professor Ashutosh Sharma to a talk.
Thank you, Professor Narayana Rao. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. So my remote namaskar, namaste to everybody who has joined us. I wanted to be here from the beginning to listen to Professor C.N.R. Rao. I was called in another webinar organized by Professor Paul Weiss. He insisted very much that I should be there. Dr. Paul Weiss is the editor-in-chief of ACS Nano, and they were also discussing stuff related to nano. So I'm very, my apologies. I'm very sorry that I was not able to join earlier. But I'm so glad that there are so many distinguished and compelling speakers in this session that are contributing to this conference. Professor C.N.R. Rao, Dr. Shashi Bala Singh, and Dr. Narayana Rao himself, as well as many other distinguished speakers and scientists who would follow in this. So, well, okay, for I think the topic that we are discussing here, before I forget, I don't know if Professor C.N.R. Rao is there. So Professor Paul Weiss was conveying his regards to him when I mentioned that I would be joining this one a little bit later. So the thing we are discussing is a very important topic, which is the science and technology going beyond the time of virus. So there are lots of things that we have learned from the time of virus. So I would lay out some of those. What are the lessons and what is it that we want to do to go forward in the future? How do we strengthen our science and technology in order for it to be profound, in order for it to have quality, in order for it to have relevance. So to my mind, when one starts research, I must get answer to one of the two questions in affirmative. The first one is, does it have new insight? Does it have quality? Is it there's something profound? Is one taking some risk in order to address some new aspects of the problem? The second aspect is, does it have relevance? Other words, is there a clear path for it to go forward? Now, when we talk about basic sciences, we have to emphasize, when we talk about basic fundamental research, we have to emphasize the quality, because we know that India is already producing large number of scientific papers. We are in fact number 3 in the world in terms of and engineering publications. So clearly, going forward, one has to ask the question that this is not simply some incremental work, that this has actually some new idea. It has some amount of profoundness rather than incremental focus. The incremental focus largely comes from the fact that that we are basically following some great group somewhere in university XYZ and saying this is a hot topic, so let me also work on it. So this basically means that we would remain followers forever instead of defining a new area which is entirely our own. And whole lot of that happens not just by looking at the computer screen, sitting in my lab and maintaining a continuity of my research work. The second aspect for the applied research, what is the so-called applied sciences and so on, there has to be a clear understanding of how this would translate in terms of technology, in terms of product, which actually has a need and which in fact has a priority in terms of both industry, startups, or market. So it's not only in purely economic terms, but in terms that it must have relevance and possibility of impact. So these are speaking very simply, right, without getting into jargon of any kind or stuff like that. I just like to say, if answer to one of these questions is in affirmative, then this is going to contribute not only to nation building, is going to contribute to science itself. So now we're talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, for example. Right? This is one of the themes which is doing rounds everywhere. And as Honorable PM has pointed out, that we need to have greater amount of Atmanirbharta. Now, oftentimes by Atmanirbhar in the context of science and technology, people often equate that with Make in India. So Make in India is certainly an important aspect of it. But basically, Atmanirbharta means that there should be strengthening of the every part of the knowledge chain. What is this knowledge chain? So basically, Make in India, it rests on R&D in India. It rests on innovation in India, design in India, startup in India, stand up in India, and of course then Make in India, right? So therefore the whole knowledge chain, which is going from basic R&D to technology and the products and the human resources and the startups and the industry and the market. This makes for the whole holistic knowledge chain. Now, when we, as an individual scientist, of course, I have to focus on one aspect of that chain. It's not necessary that each one of us would be able to effectively address every part of that chain, but our system as a whole, which means our, let's say, a large institute as a whole, a large university as a whole, must have all of these ingredients which are working together. Of course, a whole lot of it has to do with different dimensions. Science and technology is the foundation based on which you can build a whole lot of other things. Science and technology is not everything. Of course, it has to be matched by culture. It has to be matched by policies, regulations. And foremost, I say, when I talked about culture, I'm also talking about confidence. Now, you see, our students, our whole scientific ecosystem, it does not lack in intelligence. It does not lack training. is the best of training anywhere in the world, very rigorous, starting from high school and the competition that goes on. So what is it that we are a little bit lacking at this moment? What we are lacking is the sense of doing independent research, taking risk, bringing in quality, and even this capacity to take risk, to think creatively, and absorb the losses if it fails. So it is all a matter of confidence. Often I have seen my own students over decades, so intelligent, so great potential, but they would shy away from saying that, look, can I really translate my knowledge, which was lab based, into something that would, for example, has need in the market? Can I not only be a job seeker, but can I be a job provider? Now that as a culture does not come very easily, even in the top of our institutions, because starting from school we not been trained like that at all. So what it is that as professors, as scientists, and as students here, it is our foremost responsibility to build that confidence that we are not really, is not second to none in this world. That confidence, and based on that confidence, we are able to translate the pure knowledge into something which would be of relevance. Our strengths, I already pointed out, there are many strengths, so that going forward in science and technology should be really easy. In fact, we are third, like I said, in number of publications, which basically means that we have deep strength in science. We have the right scientists who are globally competitive. We have IITs, we have R&D labs of all sorts, CSIR, a great pool of scientists and infrastructure there. Our startups are coming up very fast because this generation now is far more confident than my generation in saying that, look, I can actually take risks, I can do something substantial. Today, there are about 120 incubators supported by DST alone, and there may be 300 incubators or so in terms of number of startups. But considering we are a country of 1.3 billion people, we need to put in front of 15,000 startups very quickly. In fact, to put two zeros in front of it, right? We have strengths in terms of demographics. We are a young nation. What that means is that we have the energy and the aspirations of a young nation. And it has to be balanced by the wisdom and experience of the older people. So if these were to work together in providing direction to this energy, providing resources to this energy, I haven't any doubt that science and technology we have today can be translated and scaled up with speed. And we have that happen in the times of virus. So I would come to that in a moment as to what are the lessons we have learned now and take them forward. So lessons you see from COVID-19. See, when you look in general, you say, what are the different ways that I can address and solve a problem? So these ways of solving a problem, whether it's a problem of science, technology, or anything else, management, whatever you, there are three different ways of solving a problem. And these in Hindi are called Jugaad, Dhanda, and Panga. So Jugaad is business as usual, which is doing, incremental work, 2% rate of growth, 5% something. What I'm doing today, I would do a little bit more incremental, or it would be stable and it would be continuous. Most of the processes in society and industry are dhanda, right? We don't want to get rid of them. We don't want anarchy, certainly. At the same time, if some problem has to be solved very quickly, even if suboptimally, then we do it with Jugaad. But Jugaad is not a globally competitive solution, and it is not scalable, and it is suboptimal. So therefore, Jugaad culture, we have to get away from there unless it is a pressing problem which has to be solved today, and it cannot wait, right? And then we can improve upon it later. The Panga is basically a disruptive way of solving a problem, which means that I meet the same function, but with a new idea, where the function may be 10th or even 100th of what we got today, or the functionality may be 10 times, 10x greater than what we have today. And there are many examples of that coming up in COVID-19 problems. We'll hear more about them. For example, new diagnostics, which is based on cutting edge science. right? It is not simply recycling some, it's not just RT-PCR. Of course, there is, we also need to make RT-PCR at home, and it can be done with half the cost of the imported ones. That's the easy part. But, using new science, CRISPR-Cas tool, for example, instead of PCR, working on a new platform like LAMP, and all of that, right? Or even working new designs of ventilators, which have artificial intelligence and IoT embedded in it, so that a single doctor, because doctors are in short supply, a single doctor can monitor, let's say, 10 different ventilators. And a whole lot of these ventilators driven by artificial intelligence are able to make intelligent choices in order to serve the patients which are on these ventilators. Now, okay, so some of the things which happened despite the constraints in COVID-19, the constraints have been people are not working, labs are shut down, supply lines are not working, and all of that. Despite all of those constraints, what was achieved in 2 months is simply mind-boggling. It is exceptional. It's extraordinary. And so what made it possible? Look, the first thing was that there was a clear and present appreciation of needs. And nobody was debating forever, oh, is there such a need or not such a need, right? So both the industry and the academia who were working on it were on the same page from the beginning. It is not like I first make a product and then look for the need. That's never going to work. So this is called the push model. So mostly we have been operating in a push model in which a scientist thinks what is good, okay, and what is needed. He really may not have any idea about what is needed, but basically based on some fashion and stuff like that, we work in our lab. We do good work, we do creative work, but it may have no relation at all to where it would go. So working with the industry from time t equal to 0, which means that my knowledge gets translated every day into a product, right? So as a scientist, I would not know how to translate this knowledge, what I want to do in terms of electronics or in terms of plastic part. So all of that has to be put together by the industry. So we must have industry as a partner if we are to translate our technology, if we need to scale it up in time. Also, you see that it was a problem-centric approach rather than a tool-centric approach. What that means is, if I need to make a ventilator, I need to make a ventilator, and it requires a whole lot of different kind of science and technology. It cannot be done only by chemistry. It cannot be done only by physics or electronics or mechanical engineering. And not only clinicians also have to work together. All of that, virologists and so on. So therefore, it is basically solving a problem by bringing all the relevant people on board. It is not a tool-centric approach. So it's not like saying, look, I am an expert in area, and I would take this tool everywhere where it matches, right? There's a very random thing, right? So therefore, the problem the center. Now, I'm not saying that every science is like that. Please don't mistake me for that. There is a science, what we may call profound creative science, which is driven by the creativity and brilliance of individual scientists. And that has to be cultivated as a culture. This urge for something new, something novel, something insight found, right? So all of that is driven by brilliance of a single scientist and a single group. But problem-centric science cannot use the same model over there. So that model requires a revision in a very profound way, which is what we are calling collaboration instead of competition. Now, our major approach to doing science has been competition. Competition with my neighbor, institute, competition with everybody, the whole world, which what I said is the right approach for very fundamental basic science, which produces absolutely new ideas. But this is that competitive approach is not the right approach in many other areas of science and technology where we lack strength, where we lack a good model, functioning model. And so therefore, more cooperation and collaboration, which is what we call interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, doesn't matter what we call it, In fact, this whole label about interdisciplinary is a bit of a misnomer. The reason is very simple. First, we invented disciplines, and then if things don't fit in these disciplines, then we start calling them interdisciplinary. But it's really out of discipline. So therefore, this whole the whole facade that we have created about being disciplined, that is good for undergraduate teaching. But if you are having a conference in frontiers in chemical sciences, it's equally can be a conference in frontiers in physical sciences. It can be equally in frontiers of material sciences or frontiers of biological sciences, because things are so pervasive now that in order to break them down by discipline is not always the best idea. As I said, some of that is needed and that's happening, but new idea where the things are not defined by discipline but defined by problem, and problem solving with commitment and confidence is what actually would happen more and more if we are to do if we are to work on Atmanirbhar Bharat. Second thing we said is, look, that the push model, which means that I do this work and then I go searching for a customer. That's a very random process, and the chance of connecting and success are very low. So therefore, the push model of knowledge coming from an R&D lab, coming from academia, has to be combined with the pull model that's coming from outside. So it's only when push and pull work together for knowledge that this is going to yield a result. And again, this is coming from the experience from COVID-19 solutions in terms of supply and demand matching for knowledge, and also providing an early direction. So this early direction is provided by the industry, right? So it is not provided by me doing meditation in my lab, looking at a screen, some from there, but an extra effort has to be made in order to connect with all the stakeholders of science and technology. So, see, many of these things would become very important as we go in the future, because the future is largely. Yeah, what were you saying something, Professor? Professor Rao, were you saying something? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So I will just take another 5-7 minutes, or have I run out of time? Yeah, it looks like I am pretty much out there. I mean, I'm on time, so I would not drag it. So I would just say, look, about the future of science and technology and how do we leverage it? What are the major challenges of science and technology in the future? These are related to sustainable development, which is again a problem. It is not a tool. So sustainable development is related to intelligent machines. And for example, rise of Industry 4.0 and going beyond that. It is about the convergence of science and technology, cyber physical systems. It is not a one science. See, so it is convergence of data, is convergence of data flow, is a convergence of communication, is a convergence of computing, is a convergence of decision making, which is autonomous. For example, driven by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and so on. It is a convergence of action, which is autonomous. For example, sensors and actuators. So a whole lot of this package basically cuts across what we call different disciplines. And the future is all about converging these technologies in order for them to make sense for applications. And at the same time, we must not lose sight of India-centric view in all of this. So while I can say, look, here's a great technology, artificial intelligence, whatever I call it, Industry 4.0, I'm going to import it wholesale because I tried and trusted technology somewhere else, and then use it for my purpose. Some of that will happen, but this is not the ideal way it ought to happen, because there is always an India-centric view about every technology. In this particular context, for example, you see, Industry 4.0 and the rise of intelligent machines is driven by the societies which have no young people. So therefore, only way for them to grow in the future would be making use of machines which do the job of people. It's not about replacing people, because there are no people, but our issues are 180-degree opposite of that. What that means is using the same technology or a modification of that. We need to create new opportunities and new jobs and new skills. Basically, to provide the services that we cannot provide today with the old technology. So therefore, it is expanding the market. It is expanding the scope of application of science and technology, even if we are using the same technology which is used here. So there are many challenges, many of the technology missions. So when we say technology mission, it does not mean it does not have fundamental science. Often people have this very narrow view of science and technology, and people assume that a challenge which is coming from industry or a challenge of technology does not have any challenge of science embedded in it. On the contrary, the most of the exciting science actually emerges out of challenges of applications. So if we understand what the challenges of applications are, then we must have a very good fundamental science to address challenges. So there are many challenges we said about electric mobility, electric storage, quantum technologies. A new mission is being formulated by DST worth 8,000 crores, which is a very holistic view of quantum science and technology. So it's not just about quantum communication, quantum computing, quantum devices, quantum materials, cryptography, satellite communication, what have you. So all of this will require that a variety of scientists actually work together, even without differentiating between is it a scientist, is he a technologist, is that a company, is that academia. All of those should become seamless. So basically, whatever we require in order to go forward, to generate new knowledge, to make use of that knowledge, all of that it should be there. Communication, 5G and beyond, handling diversity, handling data, natural resources, energy, water, and so on, antimicrobial resistance. Now we're talking about antiviral things, even making use of traditional wisdom and putting them through the lens of science and technology, and so on. Right? These are some of the challenges of the future that each scientist today should be fully aware of, because the challenges are opportunities. The opportunities will arise from here, from all of these areas. I think that I should now stop. And just I want to just share with you maybe one thing is that I touched upon the fact that we need to bring in confidence, whether it's in our PhD students, whether it is our scientists, whether it is our industry, and how they can make use of knowledge and so on. It is actually our job to be a crusader for all of these aspects. At the same time, there's also we must remember that the knowledge-based systems, they can never work in isolation. So I would just repeat by saying that the knowledge is a chain, and when it is end-to-end chain, then only we see the fruits of science and technology translating and serving our needs. You see, the basic concept in science is that if I have proved something 10 times, I don't need to prove it 11 times or 1,000 times. It is better to focus on unproving it, which means essentially that it's not good to just focus on our strengths all the time, that we have to also take into account our weaknesses. And if we examine those weaknesses and we are committed to removing them, I haven't any doubt that this would become a holistic science and technology system which is seamless, which is end-to-end. And this is responsibility of each one of us to examine that particular aspect. And I would just close by saying that, look, diversity is one aspect which, while we do not always associate it with science and technology, it is very important, because a society which is running only half full or 1/4 full, right, is not going to be a compelling society in any sense. And science and technology is a very good example of that. Whether you look at gender, I've even seen people, on the other day, somebody was saying on the Facebook, they said, look, we have these very deep biases against people who come from small towns. And we somehow think that they are not as intelligent. We also have biases against people who don't speak English, for example, right? And we somehow tend to think that these are somehow less intelligent people. Nothing would be farther from truth. And we already know that the gender equality in science and technology is horrible. So when we talk about diversity, if we really want to strengthen running full steam our science and technology ecosystem, we must make sure that the diversity is respected, inclusion is respected, and everybody is empowered to participate equally with a level playing field in the system. Right? This is a responsibility not of some government, right? There's not, we often say, if there's some rule, regulation, blah, blah, I would look at it, right? This is a responsibility for each one of us who is serious about strengthening our science, right? This is an individual responsibility, just like what we call scientific social responsibility. I not have time to talk about it, but so not strengthening of science and technology, what I want to submit to you, all the people who are listening to us, I want to humbly submit to you that strengthening science in the country or even globally is not as simple as simply saying give me more money. Okay, we have often equated the two erroneously, right? It's not in fact, in COVID-19 we didn't see any new money. I mean, it may be coming now, but there was infrastructure which is leveraged. There are people whose knowledge is leveraged, their dedication and sense of purpose is leveraged. I'm not arguing against having more and more money. I'm not doing that at all, right? So don't infer from there. I'm saying while that is also necessary, it is not sufficient. Okay, and I can show you this by examples. I know the labs wherein, let us say, all the money, big money is going. Beyond a certain point, it becomes incremental. So today, if I'm able to publish 20 papers, if I got even other more $2 million more, I may be able to publish 5 more papers. But it's not going to fundamentally alter the way I do science. It's not going to fundamentally alter the way I view science or do science, and how I think that the science is going to empower the society, right? That is a very deep cultural aspect. And so I want everybody to examine that. It's much more difficult than just saying it. I completely agree with it because I'm a practicing scientist myself. So at the end of the day, I have to teach, I have to give lectures, then I have to raise money for my research. I have to go plead with many committees. Then I have to, manage my lab and all the resources. Then I have to go, participate in conferences. Then I have to do networking. Then I have to do some administrative work and all of that. At the end of it, I agree that it does not leave much energy or insight or time to actually think about where is the science going. Okay, what I'm doing, what is the meaning of it all at the end of the day, right? See, I have published maybe more than 350 papers in my life, but I look back on them, then I say, look, I could have done with 70, right? Of course, our award and reward system is a little bit skewed. So therefore, it selects people who are like me, who publish 350 papers, right? But I'm saying time has come to examine that as well, isn't it? And I think there's a collective responsibility. It is not something that a government or somebody will do, right? That we have the right kind of recognition, reward, and award system in place, which is not simply based on networking, which is not simply based on, oh, I look like this big professor somewhere else. I'm also doing the same work that this big professor is doing, right? So it is not about that. Okay, I'm so sorry I took longer than I thought, and I didn't only talk about narrow, deep of science and technology, but a little bit wider sense, because I'm fully convinced now, looking at a wider system, that many of these elements would be equally important in doing meaningful, purposeful, strong, quality science as everything else that we have been focusing on until now. So thank you very much. My namaskar to everybody, and I wish all the best to the session which is yet to come. Thank you very much.
Sir, namaskar. Uh, as you are kindly aware, 3,154 participants from premier institutions, IISc, IITs, NITs, IIITs, ISERs, National Laboratories of DST, DBT, DRDO, ICMR, ICR, ISRO, Minister of Earth Sciences are participating in this webinar.
Wow. So then I have to do namaskar again.
Sir,
right. Indeed,
you
very good.
made these intellectuals get involved in your presentation and you ignited these intelligent minds. As moderator, I have received more than 100 questions as you excited them, but due to paucity of time, we'll be able to take only 2 or 3 questions with the kind permission of the Secretary DST. Is it okay, sir?
Yeah, perfectly okay.
Sir, one question from Professor Ramprasad. Is COVID-19 having any positive effect on science and technology in India? If so, you may kindly elaborate.
Yeah. I would like to ask the questioner about what he or she thinks about what is a positive effect of COVID-19, because part of my talk actually I devoted to that. So anyway, I can repeat all of that, or I can say, look, even the fact that we are meeting here like this with 3,000 people, has it happened any time before without spending enormous amount of resources and time? And there are meetings with 10,000 people.
Money.
You don't need any visa in order to share knowledge anymore, right? All our meetings, in fact, in last 2 months, I have had more than 100 meetings, each one having 10 to maybe 10,000 people on this, right? So it's a great thing. I mean, you see, the remote processes going forward in the future are going to be very helpful. What that also means is, look, our education, a whole lot of our collaborative research will become remote, right? This has both positives and negatives, because today, if you have, a professor from MIT who is doing a good job of teaching students, SRM University would pay him and recruit him, because it doesn't matter if I'm sitting 10 kilometers away or 10,000 kilometers away. If I'm giving a remote lecture, it's only my quality of teaching that matters. So we are going to have global competition, right, in everything, and this the forces of globalization would become much stronger, and science and technology plays a very great role in all of this. Other things that I said about, look, what are the positive messages of COVID-19? It is having a sense of purpose. One sense of purpose which is shared, right? And because of that, there is an early direction to our research. And what that means is this can be done by cooperation rather than competition. So it's a problem-centric approach rather than tool-centric approach of solving problems. So the fact is that in 2 months, we were able to develop things that could have been done 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Nothing was preventing them. It's just because there was no perceived need for it. Right? The need was always there. We have been importing a whole lot of these things. All biomedical devices, for heaven's sake, 85% of biomedical devices come from abroad, right? It's true for almost anything that we do. And the reason is not because we lack the generation of knowledge, right? We don't lack infrastructure. We don't lack quality, global quality scientist, global quality mind, intelligence, training. What we lack is no connect, right? There is no shared purpose in doing any of this. So therefore, what we could have done 5 years ago, because of these reasons that I'm pointing out, have come together. So this seamless chain of knowledge, from knowledge generation to knowledge consumption, this must be together. If it's not together, it's not there. Okay, then everything is like, making the whole grid, making all the high tension lines and stopping right outside of a village. This is called last mile connectivity. So we produce a lot of power, and we say we are good producers of power, but nobody is getting it, right? This is because the last mile connection is not given. A meter is not put there, right? And so this is what I think there are lots of positive messages going forward. Only point is how soon we'll forget them.
The next question to Secretary DST from Dr. Anil Gaikwad. With the economic crisis due to COVID-19, what is the way forward for science and technology in India? Will COVID-19 has any impact on grants and allocations for science and technology?
I would like to ask the questioner whether he thinks that there is impact of COVID-19 on everything, every walk of life, and every single person that we deal with. Can the speaker tell me, illuminate me a little bit about this? You know, oftentimes I feel that I am the most, oppressed, unhappy person in this world because I have no shoes until I meet a person who has no legs. Now, having said that, please understand the greater context of the crisis that we are in. One of the lessons of COVID-19 is that the self is much bigger than me, this body, this brain, and this my lab, right? The self, the definition of self has to be much broader. It has to be far more compassionate, and therefore it has to serve the needs of everybody in these times of crisis. Having said that, okay, we look at this very limited question about how is it going to impact me, right? My lab and my activities. It has already impacted in some ways. And this has nothing to do with government. It has nothing to do with anybody. Globally, it is impacted. I was talking to Paul Weiss, as I said earlier. He said that all their labs are shut down until September at the very least. That there is nothing happening except the COVID-19 activities there, right? So only people who are allowed to be in their labs until at least September, is saying. After that, they would take a call about what happens later. They are saying that there is no research other than what you may call relevant research, which is needed now. Okay. So I'm not giving this example to say that we must do the same. Okay. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, look, this is a global phenomena. Okay. And each one of us has to contribute to solution, not simply be in the mode of complaining. Okay. This is okay to complain, right? But at the same time, we have to come on board to become part of the solution. I'm saying this with all humbleness. Okay. I'm saying this with all, with folded hand and with request. Oftentimes, we are thinking that there's somebody sitting out there who's solving all our problems, and I have to do nothing in this, right? And this is because it is very fresh in my mind. I have been talking to many people on this phone, let's say either for Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever, right? And I'm saying I'm so astonished that people have not grasped the magnitude of the problem that we are going through in this, right? Having again said that, as a limited purpose, let me say that I do not foresee that this would have a great impact on our R&D funding that we have at our disposal today. So this is the positive note, and this is the only answer people want to hear. I'm afraid they're not interested in anything else, right? Don't tell me, anything else, right? Just tell me, am I going to get my grant on time this year or not, right? And everybody else is saying, let me also, you see, because this is a very serious subject. This is not something which is so superficial that we answer it in one sentence and then everybody goes happy home, right? It's not like that. You see, each one of us have to do little something extra for the times in which we live. And now there are a lot of people, they say, look, I don't have a job, I'm completing PhD or I'm a postdoc. Now I would not have a job, so please extend me for 1 year, please extend me for 6 months, do all of that. Please understand that this is a zero-sum game. One may extend for 6 months, one may extend for 1 year, even 10 years, or give a permanent job. But it is at the expense of somebody else who is equally desiring his life to be taken forward. Okay, there is no such thing as saying I would serve when I serve out of turn one section of society, then somebody else has to suffer on that account, right? Because it is clear that while we may hold the fort, which means that we may service everybody according to commitments, we may not have great expansion of this, right? Because there are so many demands on society and nation at this point. So therefore, I'm perfectly okay by saying, oh, no, no problem. Until you get a job, please be my guest, get all the fellowship and everything, do whatever you want. What that means is that the people who are graduating today and looking for a postdoc will not have those positions available. So you see, the life is about balance. It is not about only serving the interest of a special group. So that is why I'm saying that each one of us has to do little bit of what I would not call it sacrifice. I would just call it, this is being part of solving the problem, not being part of the problem, not only having entitlement, but also having some responsibilities. Right? And please don't think I'm saying this as a bureaucrat or something. I'm saying this as part of the society which is undergoing a crisis of unheard of magnitudes, which will have economic dimensions, which has societal dimensions, and each one of us would have to suffer a little bit in that process.
So the next question is, what do you think of biosecurity and how to overcome that?
I'm not understood what do you mean by biosecurity.
Sorry?
Yeah, what is biosecurity? Please go ahead.
Okay.
So is it to do with BSL-2, BSL-3, BSL-4? Has to do with testing with virus. What is or is it about biohazard? Is it about stopping viruses that may be originating somewhere? Or is it about antimicrobial resistance? Biosecurity is a very general term.
Okay, we'll pause this question, sir. Yeah. Sir, there are more than 100 questions, but I don't think there is time to take up such questions as Secretary DST has stringent commitments. So we thank Secretary DST, Professor Ashutosh Sharma ji, on behalf of SRM University, the India's national newspaper, Hindu, and all the participants. Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful.
Thank you, Namaskar. Have a great day and session going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I have a great pleasure in inviting very reputed, young and dynamic Director of CSIR, Indian Institute of Chemical Technology, CSIR, IICT, in translational research,
ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to contact our office today to start the conversation. We're here and ready to help shed light on what direction will make the most positive impact in your life. Call us today. We're ready to listen.
technology and social responsibilities will enable us to revive the airline industry. Today, the biggest industry which suffered the maximum was the airline industry. Whether science and technology will give solutions, that airline industry will not suffer even if these kind of pandemics come. The biggest sufferers are hospitality industry, hotel management, hotels. Now, if only we address pharma industry will flourish and rest all industries will suffer, how are you going to create employment for all these people only in one sector? So, are we going to create filters in such a way that the passengers who get into flight will wear some mask, and even if there is one passenger with this viral infection, not only this infection, who knows, someone with tuberculosis or someone with some other viral infection would not spread into the airlines. So can we discover the best kind of masks which provide protection even in the airlines? So naturally people will start traveling without fear into the airlines. Whether can we make the air conditioning filters and technology so robust that we don't mind going into a mall which is fully air conditioned, and even if you visitors to these malls are suffering from these problems, if the air conditioning ventilators are well done, so even if the virus goes into the ventilator, it doesn't come back, and the air is properly circulated in such a way that even our shopping malls will open and employment is created back to them. So this gave us an opportunity to define the problems now rather than doing open-ended science. I think as Ashutosh told, we don't have 20 years to discover a product or do science for next 40 years. So whatever fundamental science we do, we quickly look for applications and we make sure that the science and technology will give solutions, and we don't require to shut down any industry. Today, film industry has taken for a toss. Now, what is that science and technology interventions will help film industry to go back to shooting? I'll also endorse what Professor Rao mentioned, that whatever we do webinars, whatever we do conferences online, these are not going to give the personal touch. Today, classroom teaching is unmatched. Whatever Sienna Rao has spoken today on webinar today, if we go and sit in his classroom and he starts talking with a chalk piece in his hand, I'm sure the excitement what student gets is much, much more larger than what he addressed to us on webinar. And going to Professor Rao and taking a selfie with him, or touching his feet, or hugging him, or he blessing you, those things have to come back. I think these webinars and these distance education would only will last for a certain time, and we certainly would try to bring science interventions into classrooms in such a way that no pandemic will address us, and who knows, AI will give us in advance what kind of mutations will happen to all other viruses which are living in bats. I think bats are the basic host for all these viruses. And can we predict that what kind of mutation will happen to the virus? We all know that the SARS-CoV-19 is not the first time. It is COVID second version. There was already one which was erupted in 2009, 2013. So can we predict that by 2024, what kind of mutations will happen in this virus and what kind of vaccine I should make ready, so that even as soon as the child is born, we give that vaccine well in advance so that no pandemic will address. Can vaccine industry will develop 1 or 2 vaccines in such a way that no viral infections will attack human beings? I think we need to define our problems. Don't do Me Too science, as Ashutosh told. We do the cutting edge science which takes us to the next generation, and we live a fearless life. Many predictions are that because of pollution, environmental stress, global warming are the reasons for which these pandemics happen. So can we develop our global warming is because of many things happening because of air conditioning. So can we develop new chemicals which produce less global warming, and so that the ozone depletion will not happen and we don't require to worry too much of air conditioning. So I think it's time that these 4,000 people who are on webinar today keep thinking of future problems well in advance and decide to work on those problems rather than Me Too science. I know that our session is running late and Shibala has to follow this talk. I only would like to stop here and would be happy to take questions by only telling my friends that CSIR is one of the premier organizations in the country with about 38 labs spread across the country. Today, we have developed the best sanitizing solutions. We have developed the best oxygen ventilators. We have repurposed at least 4 drugs for which clinical trials are currently happening. I assure all these listeners that favipiravir, which is a drug of choice in Japan and Russia, remdesivir discovered by Gilead, and a vaccine which was developed by IIIM Jammu, and also many pharma product, many nutraceuticals and phytopharmaceuticals. We have initiated clinical trials, and we assure all the listeners today that the data would come for all these trials in the next 4 to 8 weeks. Again, unheard of that in less than 16 weeks to 20 weeks, we are able to develop technologies which would reach the masses and make sure that we don't suffer a lot and we don't depend on imports for these kind of things. Also, we made kits for diagnostics between IICT, IGIB in Delhi and many other labs. Today, we don't like to depend on any diagnostic tools. We see suddenly that South Korean kit has come and it is not up to the mark. So we made sure that India has made kits on our own. Many startup companies, as Ashutosh mentioned, are now making these kits. And Bharat Biotech is our partner. We are trying to make vaccines. Serum India Limited in Pune is the world's largest manufacturer of vaccines. Certainly, India need not worry on investments. India has done the best investments in the last 70 years on science and technology in the right direction. And also nutraceuticals, so the immune boosting system is well done so that nothing will happen to us. We are also coming up with antibody kit in such a way that those who will show positive on antibody test will not require to worry too much because they already have developed antibodies. They can be the frontline workers to go and help the nurses, hospitals, and make sure that we don't spread the disease. Once you have antibody, we know that we are no more carriers of the virus. So many interesting, challenging solutions are given by CSIR and many CSIR labs. I'm sure with the collective wisdom of the citizens of the country, collective wisdom of the engineers, I'm sure we are going to make sure that India will stand up to this and we beat not just one COVID-19, but many pandemics. India has strength to beat everything. With these few words, again, I would like to thank Professor Rao for giving this wonderful opportunity. Narayana Rao has been an old friend of mine, a brilliant scientist who always tries to connect students with scientist mind and take challenges. I'm sure this webinar will enlighten most of us and will make sure that this pandemic is handled much better than any other country in the world. I wish all of you a great future science. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Dr. Chandrasekhar, thank you very much for your kind, informative strengths and capabilities of this country. As you mentioned, India is the world factory for vaccines. Also, you mentioned that India can take care of the global health care. This gives a good motivation to some of the scientists in this country who are working in these areas of biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and others. Now, Dr. Chandrasekhar, can we take up a couple of questions?
Yes, surely, yes.
Because we are behind the schedule, but still we'll try to manage. The first question is from Dr. Agarwal. What should be the new roadmap for science and technology after COVID-19, particularly CSIR?
Actually, Agarwalji and Narayana Rao, I think the roadmap is very clear. As Ashutosh and Professor Rao told, I think infrastructure is built and we need to define our problems well in advance. As I mentioned, we need to do a collaborative research between the scientists of artificial intelligence and experimental scientists so that with lower investments, we do the best science. Again, as Professor Rao mentioned, take inspiration from C.V. Raman, low investments, but high output. I think that's the mantra for the globe, and we need to be the torchbearers of Indian science.
The next question to Dr. Chandrasekhar. The question is from Dr. Abhay Harsulkar. What is your view on sustaining basic science research during this testing time? He means basic research in basic science.
Yeah, actually, Narayana, I have never differentiated a science as fundamental science or a basic science or an applied science.
Okay.
I only would like to make a quotation of R.B. Woodward, who won Nobel Prize in Chemical Sciences. There is only good science and bad science. A science which is never used and science which is always used.
Okay, okay. Right. Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Though I have many questions, because of paucity of time, we may not be able to take up. We'll pass on those questions through email to you. If you find time, you could respond.
Narayana, objection. I think what we do is we will take all the questions and write the answers so that you can post on your website, and hopefully those who would get some use of them, they can read them. Okay. Again, I thank all the 3,000 art participants for listening to me, and I wish all of them a great future. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Thank you so much. Now, I have a great pleasure in inviting our good friend, Dr. Shibala Singh, Director of National Institute for Pharmaceutical Education and Research. Earlier, she has been the Director General in DRDO, and prior to that, she was a Director, DIPAS, and she champions for women empowerment in science and technology with the lighter vein. Madam, I will send you one of your cartoon slides which you have presented during the Science Congress at Bhubaneswar. If you permit later, I will circulate that cartoon slide to everyone. That speaks our commitment for women in this country to carry out research in science and technology. In fact, COVID-19 has given us an opportunity to work from home. Women with their constraints, they can work from home. Madam, now I request Dr. Shibala Singh to give her presentation.
Hello, good afternoon and namaskar to everyone present here, especially the panelists and also 4,000 plus participants who have joined us for this webinar. At the outset, I want to congratulate Professor D. Narayana Rao, Pro Vice Chancellor, SRM University, for organizing this webinar on a very appropriate topic. Post-COVID, science and technology. For any country to be economically prosperous, the main drivers are science, technology, and I would also add innovation. So it is science, technology, and innovation. As the world is dealing with the most challenging periods in modern times, it is evident that science, technology, and innovation is a key to provide critical and indispensable tools to combat COVID-19. We all are undergoing tough times because of COVID-19 pandemic, but these situations which are challenging also bring in a lot of opportunities. Science and technology had played a major role in fighting COVID-19, not only in India, but world at large, which we are witnessing every day through media, e-media, print media. You know, India, which is a country of 130 plus crore of population, has a lot of inherent strength. Some of them large demographic dividend, which is there in India. Then we have a very strong IT and IoT, Internet of Things. We have very vibrant startup ecosystem, fast growing economy. And of course, there's a lot of increased demand of scientific inputs by the industry like pharma, healthcare, defense, and many other industries. If we look up at what all we have witnessed in the COVID-19 period, major contributions. One thing which is very nice is during this period, all the stakeholders, right from the funding agencies, ministries, regulatory bodies, industries, government bodies, all the academia, R&D institutes have come together to combat COVID-19. So it has been a preemptive, proactive, and participatory approach. And within 2 months, see how much has been done, which we could not even have thought of doing it for maybe in the last 5 years. And in this small period, we have become self-reliant in many of the products like diagnostic, testing labs, like PPEs, personal protective equipments, ventilators, which were being imported initially. But see how the industry, how the scientists, how the researchers have risen to the equation to beat or to combat COVID-19. Not only this, scientists had developed simulation models for spread of using high throughput computing techniques. They have screened thousands of chemicals for developing vaccine and drugs using molecular docking studies. Not only this, preparation of science-based information and education and communication material for generating public awareness, though small in technology, but all this TEC has done a great job. Arogya Setu, again, app, surveillance app. All these technology, all these product and processes have helped India combat COVID-19. So this is a very positive story which we have been talking. And all this, has been possible because of the translational research. So we are already, India is in mode of translation research. And we need to scale up as the time goes. And we need not even slow down this tempo, which have already been built up in the system across all stakeholders. I think we need to make this build this tempo up. And then as we pass through the COVID and come to the post-COVID or co-COVID, we need to be gearing up our system and working towards an ecosystem which is more economical, financially vibrant, and gives opportunities to our research scientists and also to all the people who are working in different areas in India. So translation research, I think this is one of the key word which has been put up in this webinar. Translation research, the main aim of the translation research is to promote health and quality of life and promote performance by preventing diseases and predicting diseases. This concept, though it's about not more than 15 years old, but it has been underdeveloped and underutilized. Translation research can make contribution by confirming basic science findings in humans and testing hypotheses in preclinical models. If you ask me, translation research is a big tent model, where we have all stakeholders, right from the government, ministries, regulatory bodies, researchers, industry people, all are put together, and then through this, through the exchange of views and also in the process of developing a product and process, we are able to sort of talk to each other, have good linkages, and then work towards the development of prototype. And also after the development of prototype, this can be commercialized through industry. But if you look at all this, what I have been talking as a success during COVID, there are a lot of challenges, I'm sure, which people are facing, those who are involved in it very actively, right from the government to the researcher, to the regulatory bodies, to the people who are in industry, who are in a part of commercialization of these products, especially approvals from regulatory authorities. Other challenges are private institutions found product difficult for commercialization. Then difficulty in validation, QA/QC, quality control, quality assurance, clinical trials. But I've been watching all this, and sometimes you read that in the middle of the night, the approval are given for this clinical trial. So I believe, and we all know, that people are working overnight 24/7 to make things happen. And that's why whatever has been said by me, it is because of everyone is in a participatory mode. Everyone has a purpose, and the purpose of everyone converges to the same point, that is combating COVID-19. Now, post-COVID is one of the main tasks will be how do we recover Indian economy? How should we put it on track again? The main mantra which has been said by our Honorable Prime Minister, even the speakers which were there before me spoke about self-reliant, Atmanirbharta, which can meet demand and supply. For this, we need to map technologies which are available with us in different sectors, in different areas like food, health, healthcare, pharma, defense. We need to understand what are our strengths. Also, we need to understand what we have to ask for from maybe other people, like international bodies from other countries. Then this is the time to collaborate. We need not be working in silos. This is what is happening. In most of the institute, left, one room doesn't know, one lab doesn't know what the next lab is doing. We need to collaborate not only at national level, but international level, especially where the people are doing much better science than us, to add more value to the science and then make the science better, and so that it can serve the people at large. At the end of the day, when we are doing science, it should be in some form so that our common man can benefit, can improve his quality of life by using some of these scientific processes or products. Like for agriculture, I think why not talk to Israel people? Why not collaborate with Israelis the way they have been doing? With less water, the way their productivity of crops are more. For medical devices, why can't we collaborate with Japan, Germany? So these are some of the things which need to be thinking. International collaborations are as important as the national collaborations. I will just dwell upon some of the sectors. Since being a life sciences person, I can just talk about, I will talk about food and agriculture. You know, what we should be doing in food and agriculture. One of the main problems which we have been witnessing is post-harvest management. More than 40% of the fresh food goes waste. We should be designing, researching, agro-processing for reducing agriculture waste, like biofortification, nutraceutical development. Then also packaging. Packaging is again very, very important, you know, to increase the shelf life of this post-harvest management. And to increase the productivity, soil mapping using satellite imagery. We have technologies, we should be using it, you know, so that technology convergence to achieve productivity is what is the need of the hour. Low cost and rapid diagnostic kits for animal diseases. Promotion of startup in ICT in agriculture sector, again very important. You know, agriculture sector, we should be using IT structure to the maximum. Then supply chain management. Also, ergonomically designed tools for farmers for improving productivity. We look at the tools, you know, for these tools should be different even for men and women. And we know most of our women work in agriculture. So we should have ergonomically designed tools for improving productivity. Pharma sector, I think, at this time, all of us will agree that health is wealth. We have been talking about it, but we have realized it more now that health is wealth. And because of health being wealth, people are becoming more health conscious, you know. They consume more supplements. Then aging population, again, more drugs are required. Unhealthy lifestyle, increased average lifespan, all requires more production and consumption of drugs. As we know, Indian pharma is pharmacy of the world. And then it produces 20% of generic drugs which are required by all the countries. And also it has 62% vaccine worldwide are produced in India. And we have seen a very good example where Indian pharma industry has come and increases production to 10 times for hydroxychloroquine and exporting it to 123 countries. And if I say all this, the gray area in this is, in spite of all this, we still, for the raw material, we depend on other countries, especially China, which, you know, China is not a very reliable country. So we need to be self-reliant in APIs. This is one of the gray areas which government is giving a lot of focus, a lot of ministry support is coming to the industry, especially MSMEs. I think we need to take this area forward. Medical devices, as has been said by one of the speaker, more than 70% medical devices are imported. You know, even small blood pressure equipment, we are importing it, Japan, Omron. I mean, we need to facilitate domestic manufacturing of medical devices. For this, we need to have research and development in mission mode. They should be in mission mode so that prototype is developed and then it can be validated, clinical trials can happen, and then product can be commercialized and be used by the people. So all this, we need to, again, put these things on fast track validations, approvals, clearance for clinical trials, so that with time, our export dependency on medical devices decreases. For all this, if you look at R&D structure of India, it's a very vibrant system, but India spends only 0.9% of GDP on R&D, while US 2.7, China 2.1, and Japan 3. So to my mind, it is a suboptimal expenditure. In spite of all this, another thing is for even the researcher, the number of research scholar in India is 150 research scholar per million. In China, it is 1200 research scholar per million. In US, it is 4200 research scholar per million. And in Canada, it is 4300. So we really need to sort of make more people be part of this research system so that, productivity increases, more ideas are generated, and we are able to sort of make India more self-reliant in all these sectors which I have mentioned. The need of the hour is focus on translation research. Translation research means we are looking for a product or process at the end of the research, either in the form of a prototype or a product which is ready to be commercialized. We need to promote for this interdisciplinary and inter-institutional research. Research, if we are doing research in life science, it doesn't mean only life sciences people will be part of this research. Physicists, physicists, bioinformatics, even mechanical engineers, civil engineers should be part of this. And this is what it means by interdisciplinary and inter-institutional research. Then we should have partnership with the industry. When we have a proof of concept, when we are at the proof of concept stage for any idea is there, we should involve industry at an early stage, and maybe we can ask industry to fund part of this project, so that when you're involving industry at an early stage, it helps us in commercialization of the product. Funding agency, I also want to request DST secretary and other funding agency should make mandatory that all the proposals which they are receiving should have a translational component, or research should be leading to a translational part. This is very, very important. We should emphasize this for all the proposals which we get at DST, DBT, CSIR, ICMR. Facilitate multinational companies to set up their R&D centers, where the indigenous component should be more than 70%. R&D component should be more than 70%. It should not be just an assembling line, so that more of our students, our researchers can join these R&D centers and be part of the nation development. Scale up startup. Already the startups, there is very vibrant ecosystem which is present in India, but I think as has been said, we have about we need to put more zeros of whatever the number we have because of the population, which is 130 plus crore. Strengthen in IT sector, telemedicine, e-market, e-education. This is going to be to the order of the day as we move from during the COVID to the post-COVID scenario. New normal will be contactless, less contact, delivery by drones, e-classroom, e-Medicare, but they may not be the ultimate solution, but maybe we have to live with these things for some time. So at the end, I would just like to say that for all this, we need to have end-to-end technological solutions where we have strong internal linkages between academia, R&D institutes, industry, ministries, and regulatory bodies. It's very important. I think we have already geared up for this, and we should not be losing this tempo in future. And one thing more which I want to say, that industry, the CSIR fund, they can spend for R&D. This can again strengthen the R&D system of India and then build up better structure and better infrastructure and to carry out research in the area which is purpose driven. It should not be passion driven research. It should be purpose driven, which serves the purpose of Indian population. In pharma and medical devices, we need to upgrade industry infrastructure, compliance with environmental law. Then cutting edge technologies like artificial intelligence, big learning, and even IoT should be part of these industries. So friends, especially my young friends, 21st century belongs to life sciences. And as a life sciences researcher, we should collaborate and join hands to promote translation research, which will promote health, prevent diseases, and treat diseases. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Dr. Shibala Singh, thank you very much. for your highly motivative and inspirational talk. I will justify my statements. You made a characteristic statement that COVID-19 made us realize health is wealth. We have been getting influenced by the West, and some of our people have become money-centric. Now, as you said, COVID-19 taught us health is wealth. You have rightly touched upon that. Also, you said Indian R&D system is very vibrant and has contributed immensely in a few sectors such as pharma, communications, and others. Even with the meager financial allocations made for R&D. Also, I have touched upon interdisciplinary and inter-institutional research. Yes, as I mentioned in my introductory speech, now collaborations should be the new normal after COVID-19. Also, you have advocated that all proposals submitted to the funding agencies need to have a component of translational research. Then more contributions will happen for societal applications and the scientists will work for the national needs. Thank you very much, madam. We have a few questions to you from the participants. One question by Mr. Dr. Satish. As a biologist, what's your view on the evolution of this virus? Can one vaccine put an end to this crisis?
Hello, Dr. Satish.
Yeah.
We are, this virus is mutating. It has already mutated more than 10 times. And then vaccine development is still in process. By the time we get vaccine, maybe in another couple of 6 to 8 months, I'm not sure if it mutates more times, but I'm sure the vaccine will have also a wider spectrum to sort of take care of this mutation and will serve the purpose.
The next question is from Dr. Krishna Rupender Singh. What are the different areas of science and technology which are going to be critical in the and post-COVID era?
I think I've mentioned most of the technologies which are going to play important during COVID and post-COVID era. And some of the cutting edge technology like AI, big data, machine learning, IoT, IT infrastructure, all will become part of most of the research which we are doing at different levels. I mean, biological science, in pharma industry, even in defense. So all these technologies will be embedded in the research which we will be doing in future.
The next question is, how are various research laboratories in India collaborating in combating the current situation of COVID-19?
I think in the last 2 months, I'm really impressed by the way all the people who are the stakeholders have collaborated. It is not that you have to call them, they will come to you. This is what we can offer, this is what we can do. I think this is the best example I have seen in my lifetime where all the stakeholders, right from the government ministries, regulatory bodies, all the labs are coming together and planning and thinking, how do we combat this? This is the best example we can see. And I only request that let us not die. This tempo should not die down even post-COVID. We need to gear up and we need to build up this tempo more and more so that we become self-reliant, our economy comes on track, and we again become the fastest growing economy of the world.
So let us thank COVID from this aspect point of view. Okay, the next question is from Dr. Yashwant. The question is how Ayurveda can integrate with the current medical science and technology to fight the current situation.
See, Ayurveda has its own strength. When you look at Ayurveda or Ayush system of alternative medicine, if you look all the processes or all the products which are being offered by Ayush, they are all revolving on one single point: how to increase immunity. It is, if you have better immunity, chances that you will contact COVID are less. So this is again, it's a physiological, like especially yoga, it's a non-pharmacological way of increasing immunity. Even other Ayurvedic preparations, they're very good and they're being all proven, like Chyawanprash. All the ingredient in this, there is a clinical trial going on now, but I know all the ingredient in it are converging to make immune system better. So Ayurveda has its own inherent strength. It is more on a preventive side. So prevention is better than cure. And then it is most cost economical. So we should follow this also. Have some kind of balance.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shibala Singh. Now I request all the participants wherever they are, please thank all the speakers and also Dr. Shibala Singh with clapping. Now I request my colleague and the registrar of SRM University, Andhra Pradesh, Dr. Gunasekaran, to propose vote of thanks. ఎవరికి ఫోన్ చేశారు శివకుమార్ వస్తున్నాడు లైన్లో ఎవరికి చేశారు మీరు హలో
Hello, sir.
Hello, Ranjit.
Yes, sir.
Registrar is available or deputy registrar?
Deputy registrar, sir.
Registrar. మీరు ఎవరు చేశారు ఇంతసేపు పట్టకూడదు అందుకే ఈ ఫోన్ నాకు ఇష్టం
Hello.
Sir, good afternoon. You are available? Dr. Shivkumar?
Yes, sir.
Please propose vote of thanks.
Sure, sir. Sir, it's my pleasure to propose vote of thanks to this wonderful webinar session. I take this opportunity to thank... Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I take this opportunity to thank Bharat Ratna Professor C.N.R. Rao for kindly accepting our invitation and chairing the session. Also, I thank him for delivering very informative, motivative, and visionary words about the future of science and technology in India. Sir, your words are so valuable to the future of the world, nature, and the nation. I thank Professor Ashutosh Sharma, Secretary to the Government, Department of Science and Technology, for sparing his valuable time and delivering a motivational talk on the future of science and technology. Sir, you have touched upon the very important point of the academia and industry collaboration, which is very, very important. Otherwise, the research that is emerging from the academics will not get into a product. Thank you very much, sir. I thank Dr. S. Chandrasekharan, Director, IICT, for his inspiring and emboldening talk about the future of science and technology in the nation. Sir, you made a point very clear that today it is the COVID-19. Tomorrow, the pandemic situation may erupt in any form. So you alarming this, you are indicating and telling to the younger generations that we should be ready to face this sort of situations which is coming from any direction and in any form. Thank you very much, sir. I also thank Dr. Shibala Singh, Director, Naipar, for her wonderful speech and bringing the challenges and the solutions for the science and technology. Madam, you touched upon a very important point. The researcher to the regulatory body, which is very, very important. Though there are good results or outcomes are coming from academic research, but it is not material. So the policy and the policy makers should be very flexible to encourage the academic research. Otherwise, academic research will get into the valley of death. Thank you very much, madam. I thank Dr. P. Satyanarayanan, President, SRM University, for his kind and generous support in all means for conducting this webinar. I thank the Hindu media partner for kindly accepting our proposal and supporting the webinar by providing media support. I thank the distinguished academicians, scientists, and research scholars who are actively participated from institutions like IISc, IITs, NITs, IISers, several universities, colleges, national laboratories of CSIR, DST, DVT, DRDO, ISRO, ICMR, and many more. I thank the technical support team for conducting this webinar, Dr. Mohan, Dr. Arunati, Ms. Suhasini, and other members of their group.
Do you ever feel like
Finally,
you've lost a sense of purpose
like
or
to
direction
thank
in any aspect
Professor
of your
Narayana
life?
Rao,
Maybe you wonder,
Vice
what
Chancellor,
next step should I
SRM
make in my
University,
career or my
who
personal
is
life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from
behind
time to
this
time
webinar,
with the unforeseen and
bringing
unknown
distinguished
twists and turns that
intellectuals
everyone experiences in their
platform
life, and
to
it's hard to
discuss
have all the
the
answers.
post-COVID
That's why you should turn to
future
a
of
life
science and
coach, a
technology in
dedicated
India.
specialist that can help
Thank
you
you very
think
much, sir.
through tough decisions
also
and
thank
offer sound
the
guidance to
organizing
making
committee
a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing.
wonderfully
We urge you
executed
to contact our
and
office
planning of the
today to
webinar
start the
with a vote of
conversation.
thanks.
We're
Thank you
here
very much
and ready to
for
help shed
participating
light
in
on
this
what
webinar.
direction will
Thank you
make
all.
the most positive impact
Thank you,
in
Dr.
your
Shiv
life.
Kumar, and thanks to all
Call
the
us today.
participants of
We're
this
ready to
webinar.
listen.
My colleagues on the program committee and technical committee, we are grateful to all of you for organizing this webinar without any hassle and in a perfect way. Ranjit, when shall
Yeah, thank you, sir. So I think we can end. We can end the meeting.
we will close?
Yes, sir.
Again, we are meeting today.
Sir, we will meet at 7 o'clock. I will send to you.
ठीक है तो शाम को 7 बजे को जूम में मिलेंगे. Okay?
Yeah, Suhasini, please end the meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Suhasini?
ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to contact our office today to start the conversation. We're here and ready to help shed light on what direction will make the most positive impact in your life. Call us today. We're ready to listen. Do you ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to contact our office today to start the conversation. We're here and ready to help shed light on what direction will make the most positive impact in your life. Call us today. We're ready to listen. Do you ever feel like you've lost a sense of purpose or direction in any aspect of your life? Maybe you wonder, what next step should I make in my career or my personal life? It's very natural to feel a bit lost from time to time with the unforeseen and unknown twists and turns that everyone experiences in their life, and it's hard to have all the answers. That's why you should turn to a life coach, a dedicated specialist that can help you think through tough decisions and offer sound guidance to making a fulfilling decision about any hurdle that you're facing. We urge you to contact our office today to start the conversation. We're here and ready to help shed light on what direction will make the most positive impact in your life. Call us today. We're ready to listen.